So Krishma, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So let's just get straight into it, because obviously you've had Maya Dahlia Cakes for just over a decade, right?
Yes, that makes me feel really old. Yes, just over a decade.
And I just feel like, especially in the UK, it's a real flagship luxury wedding cake brand.
That's really nice.
Well, it is. And yeah, I just wanted to first find out, like, how did it all start?
So it's really bizarre looking back that far, but I think it sort of started just from a bit of baking here and there. And then really there were a couple of events that I did which sort of sparked things and set things in motion. One of those was a wedding cake for one of my best friends, a dealer. And the other one was a wedding cake for my husband's now business partner then too, H, and his wife, Monica. And that was like a really big industry wedding at the time. And it was a really big wedding. Lots of people were there. Making that cake just kind of, I think it started everything for me.
Yeah.
Because after that event, people were asking me, do you do this for a living? Could you make my wedding cake? And it just kind of grew naturally from there, which was really nice.
Yeah, I love that so much. And obviously, like, your brand has been so successful. And I think, you know, if we just think about it, like, people just think, oh, it's just like a wedding cake, right? And maybe like 50 years ago, your job didn't exist.
Yeah.
As in at your level, because obviously clients do pay for luxury. They do pay for those specific types of clients do pay for things that are, you know, super luxurious, over the top, beautiful, creative. And obviously the wedding industry, and we're going to get into this, has totally shifted over the last few years, especially also in the last 10 to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you've done such amazing events, like international events. Like, you've probably been at like every top venue in the UK, especially in London. So what do you feel like it takes to get to this point? Because obviously you have created a brand where, you know, wedding clients do pay a premium to book you. You're not doing kind of like your average standard cakes. So what kind of things do you think it's taken to get you to this point?
I think the first thing that pops into my head when you say that, and when I hear all of that from someone else, it's like, oh my God, really? It's kind of weird to hear someone else say things like that. But yeah, the first thing that pops into my head is hard work. It's taken a lot of hard work. It's taken 10 years of like working at the beginning, 2 jobs. So my actual career was something completely different, doing this on the side for a few years, working till 2 a.m. most nights back then, just really putting in the graft and putting in the hours, which I think is something that most people are used to. If you're running your own business, you expect there to be some element of hard graft involved, but also a lot of dedication to what you're doing. And I'm really dedicated to kind of improving on myself and not ever sitting back and kind of just thinking, well, I've done it now and I'm, you know, making really nice cakes now and that's cool. I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing. I've always wanted to improve and make myself better, learn new skills. A lot of what I learned in the early days was on YouTube, which is really weird. Very much self-taught in the beginning. But as I've got older, I've started to invest more in my own learning, my own business skills, as well as the practical skills in more kind of formal courses and things like that. So yeah, definitely hard work, self-improvement, just focusing on the next goal has been really important to me all the way through.
Yeah. And I think nowadays, because obviously when you set your business up over a decade ago, I think people did expect, like, obviously you have to put in the work. And I think people still, of course, expect that. But I think nowadays there is also this thing of like, I'm going to go viral. I'm going to like make it so quickly. I'm going to be an overnight success. But in reality, it just doesn't work like that.
No, and it's really funny you've got to that quite quickly, because it's something that I think about a lot. And I've spoken to someone recently about when we were just talking about her business, because a friend of mine is setting up a new business, and we had a nice chat about kind of what I've been through in my journey. And she said exactly that. And I agree that there's so many sensational stories about business at the moment, and we have access to them online now. And we see a lot of people going viral overnight and their businesses are successful within a week, and it changes their entire life. And these things do happen. Yeah. But it's really useful to remember that they're anomalies and they happen to some people. Yeah. And we can't go into business with the mindset that you're waiting for that day to arrive. Yeah. Because I think that's a really risky way to approach a business. For me, a business is about your life and your lifestyle, and incorporating your business into your lifestyle and then just enjoying that journey. Yeah. If something like that happens, great, fantastic. That's absolutely incredible. But don't expect it to. Go into it with your whole heart and expecting that you're going to work hard and you're going to reap the benefits of that.
Yeah, because one thing I've always seen with you, Krish, is that you're really passionate about what you do, and that just like shines through, because obviously you still wouldn't be here 10 plus years later if you weren't passionate. And I think sometimes people go into business thinking, oh, I'm just in it for like a quick buck, to get viral, to have followers. And I think it just kind of doesn't work that way. And do you feel like your passion is really, because I'm assuming like there must have been really difficult times. It's not been plain sailing, like every business.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. It's like every business. I think like every job, and not just business, you have days or moments where it's not plain sailing. But I think it's really nice to sit back sometimes and just remember, like you said, why you do it. Are you passionate about it? And for me, it's passion, but it's also important. I sometimes have to remind myself that what you're doing is important to someone.
Yeah.
It's important to me, but it's also really important to them. And it's the biggest day of their life so far. They may never get married again. Most people hopefully don't.
Yeah.
Or it's a birthday and it's a really big, special one, like a 60th or a 70th or a first birthday. And these are memories that are going to live with people for the rest of their lives. They might look at these pictures and have your cake in them forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, it's really nice to just remember that as I'm making each cake, is remember how important this is to someone, and therefore it becomes really important to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have down moments and you have peaks and troughs in a business like any, but if you can remember why you're doing it, remember why you're passionate about it, it gets you through those kind of troughs, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. And I guess, what do you think is like the success to your longevity? Because obviously you're not slowing down anytime soon.
Yes. I mean, I might like to slow down sometime soon, but I don't really know. I think it's maybe a combination of just a few attributes which have helped in my particular industry. So it's the hard work, it's the being really passionate about it. And it's just the clients. I think every now and again, if I feel like maybe I'm getting a bit not bored of work, but work is work at the end of the day. If you do something every day, you do have periods where you feel a bit...
uninspired.
Uninspired is the right word, yeah.
Yeah.
But the clients, it will be maybe a week and then you'll meet a client who just reinvigorates you completely.
Yeah.
Or just gives you a massive challenge and you think, oh my God, I've never done this before. This is really exciting, and it kind of refreshes you and revives you. So I think maybe that is perhaps the key to longevity, in that I've had a really nice cycle of new and fresh clients, and people are always challenging you, which is just nice. It's a nice way to work. You're never kind of doing the same thing week in, week out.
And I feel like you're probably someone who's very good at like customer service as well. I just get that vibe.
I'd hope so. I think I've become better at that as I've gotten older. And I think it's funny because sometimes people talk about difficult clients and difficult situations, but I think as I've gotten older, I've experienced less and less difficult clients, and my customer service has got better because my understanding of people is better. My communication with people is better, especially when you talk about maybe like having a difficult customer or something, because when the younger me would have kind of gone, run away from that. Don't get involved in that situation. I don't want to be spoken to like that. But the older me thinks very much, well, why is that person a difficult customer? What's the actual problem? Is it financial pressure? Is it stress of the wedding? Is it something that we can work through together? And actually nowadays I find myself just really blessed to have really lovely clients, really lovely customers.
Yeah. Because I think also with the rise of like, the new digital age, like I feel like customer service has like dropped, especially post-COVID, I'd say. And I think that because I come from like a marketing background and like working in like high pressure marketing agencies. Yeah. And we used to get back to clients like within 24 hours. Yeah. Like if you didn't get back to that client like the same day, it was almost like a catastrophe in the office. It was so bad. It was very toxic looking back now. But I've definitely carried that through when I had my like wedding planning business and obviously my coaching and mentoring business now. Yeah. A big thing for me is always like, especially my clients, obviously they have access to me, my one-to-one clients like every most days. But even when I like get DMs from, just followers or people that are just following me or, kind of a like business acquaintances, I do try and get back to people because I just think they've DM'd me. Obviously it's not always possible because of the influx of DMs you get. But I definitely think that customer service is so important in business. And I think nowadays, because so much business is done in the DMs, like very casually, it's very different to before.
It's really different. Yeah.
But I feel like because there's that casual sense of doing business in the DMs, people almost become casual in their responses and their kind of mannerisms. And I think that people are less professional.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to find out your take on, because there's definitely data around this, like how quickly you get back to people versus how quickly you secure the sale or that client. But what's your kind of take on like getting back to clients properly, like professionally?
God, it's a really bizarre one, because I think we started in a very different era. That's the right word. Yeah. Era to where we are now. And when we started doing business, I mean, it was all website, emails, formal communication, have things written down on paper. And it was so different. And I really believe, in all honesty, looking back now, that I should have adjusted faster and I should have adapted faster. Because I think adapting to the new environment is really important.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to change. I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think it's going to go backwards.
No.
And people are going to become more formal in the way they do business. I think people like how informal things are. People like to be able to have a little conversation with you in the evening, which might not be your working hours. And I spent a long time resisting that and going, no, I'm not working at 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to respond. Or I'm not going to DM that person. I'm going to send an email.
Yeah.
And I think the faster you just adapt to the way that the world works now, the better you'll be in business, because people like it. And it's the way that the world moves now. And I think about myself sometimes as a consumer of a product or someone inquiring with someone, and I do it myself.
Yeah.
You know, I send a message and I'm so excited to get the response. I'm kind of waiting. So I try to put myself in a customer's shoes and not keep people waiting too long. And if it has to be informal, then so be it. If it's going to be on WhatsApp, I do a lot of business on WhatsApp now, then so be it. The only caveat would be to still have things written down.
Contracts.
Contracts, etc. Yeah, for security. But the way the world works now is just more casual, and I think you've got to adapt your business.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. And in terms of, I was going to say, Krishma, like in terms of clients kind of messaging you at 10 o'clock, see, I've got this battle as well, because I'm very accessible, like on things like Facebook and Instagram, but I'm very mindful of giving out my number. So my clients, they don't WhatsApp me. We've got Voxer, which is basically the same thing. It's just that they don't have your number.
Yeah.
How do you feel like in terms of like, I don't believe in the word balance, but blending it, because you're like a mother as well. And then if you're getting messages at 10 o'clock, like how does that fit in?
That's a really good question. And it's something that I think I'm still working out. I don't quite know what way to balance motherhood and business, particularly motherhood as well. And I think if you, for me anyway, I can literally balance it in the sense that my kids go to nursery in the morning, so that morning is for work, and then my afternoons are about my family and my kids and my personal admin and everything else. So I can literally balance my day, but mentally it's very difficult to balance. And I think you're right, it's not a very productive word, because sometimes I don't think you can actually achieve balance. I think it's just blending, and it is just morphing everything together and then just making your business a part of your daily life. And where you get this is how I work anyway, where you get 5 minutes to respond to a client, and then you get back to your day-to-day stuff, and then you might have another 5 minutes to respond again. And if it means responding at 10 o'clock at night, for me, it works, because I just fit work in wherever I can. For some people, they might find that's not very healthy, or maybe it depends what industry you're in as well. I think generally, because what I talk about is quite positive stuff. It's a wedding, it's happy, it's fun, or it's a celebration. I don't mind that. If it was more stressful, perhaps I would. And I may have a cut off and say after 6 o'clock, I'm not going to message anyone back. But yeah, I think it's just blending work and motherhood and life together, and just dealing with a certain level of carnage as normality. Yeah. Which I think I've got used to now. And I think once I accepted a certain level of carnage in my mind as being my normal functioning state, I was actually happier, instead of always trying to fight it and find a more clear-cut way of doing business. Because I just don't think for me right now with 2 young kids that exists.
That is just, I feel like I've had such a breakthrough moment on this podcast from just listening to you.
Already.
Yeah, already. I feel like, oh my God, because obviously you're going to be at my event, so you have to share that there.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is so amazing that you've almost, because I think sometimes you resist the carnage.
Yeah.
You know, at the moment, we're in like the beginning of nearly middle of January, and I've got my event in a couple of weeks, and there is carnage going on behind the scenes. And I was thinking yesterday, oh my God, I'm going to have to work Sunday.
Yeah.
Like today I was up at 6 a.m, like doing emails. And I was even saying to my husband today, I think I might need to work tomorrow, and I never work weekends. I'm very strict in my boundaries. But I was like, actually, you know what? Like, I have to get it done. This event is really important to me. And I just know the next few weeks are going to be like carnage driven. It's like my birthday next weekend.
Oh, mine's in a week after yours. Not that it makes any difference. Sorry.
But I think it's acceptance. That's what I was like today. I was like, it's going to be busy, but let's just roll with it. Rather than constantly stepping into fear.
Yes.
You just want to embrace it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. And it sounds awful, but the less you expect from your day in terms of this, that, and productivity, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to achieve that. I think sometimes the easier your life is and the easier your day to day is because you don't put so much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Before I had kids, I was very different.
Yeah.
I was write lists for everything, tick things off as I go along, be really hard on myself if I only get halfway through my list. Since I had kids, I'm kind of like, I still write a list. And I look at it at the end of the day and I go, oh, I did one thing on that list. Woo-hoo! Success. Like, I think, you just have to, I've learned to, over the years, just roll with a more natural way of operating my business and my life, and then just kind of like accepting that that's how my life is right now. It might only be like that because my kids are young, and maybe when they get older it might be more calm and like planned and organized again. But right now I've really learned to embrace it, and I actually enjoy it. It gives you kind of space for spontaneous pockets of fun and cool things to happen, which I think I kind of wrote out of my life before because I planned everything so much. So I actually think I'm happier this way. Yeah,
I love that so much. And do you feel like Asian women can have it all?
Oh my God, I love this question. So I've thought about this a lot actually since I knew I was coming on to the talk on the 3rd, and since we're doing the podcast. And I think the most important thing for all of us is actually to determine what we think all or success actually is first, before we decide whether we think we can have it all, or we tell people you can have it all or you can't have it all. I think having it all or success is such a subjective thing, and it's so different to different people. For you, success will be different to what success is for me. And when I look back at when I started my journey, success for me, and it sounds really humble now, but success for me was one day saying to Jazz in a swimming pool, because we used to do our best thinking in the swimming pool on holiday, I said, you know what, in the future, I really want to have a job where I can work from home. And if we do have a family, I want to be able to spend time with my kids and work around my kids. And I remember saying those words to him. And now, with hindsight, I look back and go, wow, well, that's what I do. So for me, that is success. And I feel like I've got that. Yeah. But I think if you jump into business without defining what that is, you can sometimes feel like you're looking for a bit of a needle in a haystack in the dark. And it often can change as well. So as you get older, your idea of success can change, or it can grow. And I think for me, mine is now growing because I know I'm doing what I thought I wanted to do, and now I'm going to kind of build on that. But yeah, I think defining what having it all is really important, because then you'll know when you get there. And I think everybody can get there. You just need to understand what it is for you.
Yeah. And I think in this day and age, like, I think people get bogged down by other people's success and vision because they think that's what they should have to be successful. Yeah. So like for me, like, you know, I don't have like a massive following. Like it's only like 8,500. But for
great.
Yeah.
Don't underplay that.
But success for me has never been about followers. Yeah. It's never been about, I want to have like 100k followers, because I just think sometimes that followers don't mean clients and don't mean money in the bank. And that's why you see a lot of like influencers struggling, because they can't actually monetize their brand because their followers aren't engaged in that way to buy from them. Yep. But what I realized, like when I was doing my wedding planning business, I was like, yeah, I want to do like international weddings. I want to do destination weddings and all of these things. But then once I got it, it was a bit like, oh, yeah. This is not what I thought it was going to be like. Yeah. And I remember, like, this is why I let go of weddings, because I was doing the coaching and mentoring, and I was just finding it so much fulfilling and obviously less pressure. And then it was like, I'd looked at lots of other kind of luxury Asian wedding planners, or the planners internationally at the top of their game, and thought, I want to be like that. Yeah. Like I want to be constantly away. I want to be constantly on my phone checking emails and like hustling really hard. But then I realized that actually I don't want to do that. Exactly. Like I don't want to go to site visits every week. I don't want to plan for clients as much as they was just so lovely. I was like, this is not what it doesn't feel good. Yeah. And I think now, and like last year, for example, in 2023, like I really had to take a back step in my business because like we had a few deaths in the family. We had some people that were like super sick, and like just being able to just be like at the hospital and just supporting people, and then like supporting my cousins when they like lost their dad. That's like success, if that in like a weird sort of way.
No, I understand.
Because it's like, well, actually, this is really great because I can take like 3 weeks out of my work or 4 weeks out, and I can drop everything and I can reschedule, which was amazing. But I think, you're so right. I think defining your own version of success and your own values as well is just so important. And let's just talk about difficult clients.
Here you go.
Because obviously you work with a certain type of client, obviously luxury clients. Yeah. Have you had difficult clients in the past?
So yes, I've definitely had difficult clients in the past. I kind of was touching on this before because I think as I've gotten older, that happens to me less now. Like I was saying, because I think you understand how to get to the crux of why somebody's acting like a difficult client and then work with them to kind of eradicate that. But I have a really funny thing that Jazz, my husband, does when he thinks, and this happens to him very rarely as well, because most people, 99% of people we work with are a pleasure to work with. But he has this lovely thing that he does where if he thinks that someone's being difficult or that they are actually really rude or a bit abusive to him on the phone, which does happen sometimes, you'll hear him having a conversation on the phone and he'll kind of go, oh, I just don't really think you're a kudos client. I'm really sorry. And you can almost hear their reaction is sort of like, oh, sorry, what do you mean I'm not a kudos client? And he's just, I just don't really think it's going to work. I'm really sorry. And I don't think people are used to us being picky. I think people expect that they can be picky and sometimes that they can speak to somebody how they want to. Not everybody, very few people. And sometimes it catches people off guard when you say, well, actually, I'm a human being too. Yeah. And I want to command a bit of respect in this relationship so I can deliver the best for you. And when he does it, I just find it really like, oh my God, you've done that. Well, you said that. And he was like, yeah. And he'll say to me, but we shouldn't be scared to do that. Because if we want to have a really productive relationship with a customer and get the best for them, then we have to have some respect between us. And he's like, if I think that's not going to happen with a customer, then I don't even see the point in going on that journey with them. And I actually think it's commendable. I'd like to be able to do that in the future.
It's just Jazz does it. You don't.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't do it yet. I just haven't got the guts to do it yet. I'm kind of like, I don't know how you even go about saying that to someone. But
I totally agree with him actually, because I don't really get difficult clients either. My coaching clients are so lovely. But I think there's been maybe like once or twice over the last like few years, and the words I use, I just don't think we're a right fit.
Yeah, the same thing.
Or we're not aligned. I don't think we're aligned.
We're not aligned. I like that. I'm going to take that because I think that's a slightly more subtle way of
more feminine rather than being so masculine. And what do you think, Krishma, about the current economic climate? Because I mean, I've got so many thoughts on this. On one hand, like the media is constantly like, we're in a cost of living crisis. This is happening. This is happening. And that's very real. I don't want to kind of bypass that because of course, like the economy, inflation, you know, everything is very, very real.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like when I'm out and about in London, like I remember we were out like Christmas, we were out in London and we're at this place and we're like, where is the cost of living crisis?
Where is it? Yeah, it's not here.
It's not here. Like it was really crazy actually because, and obviously you wouldn't expect these types of people, like not that you wouldn't expect these types of people, but perhaps like it's a different kind of brand. But we were at the Ritz the other day, like me and my mum went for afternoon tea. And honestly, it was like a Tuesday. Yeah. So it's the beginning of January. It's a Tuesday. And we looked around. It was like fully booked. Jam-packed. And everywhere else we went in London was like jam-packed. And of course, that's the kind of places we went to. But I just think sometimes like it impacts certain industries more than others. How do you think it's impacted the wedding industry?
I think that's a really valid point. It does definitely impact some industries more than others. And I think for us in the wedding industry, the impact has been that I think there are big weddings, really big weddings with people with absolutely crazy budgets, which have always been there and I think are still there. They always will be there. But I think there was this kind of tier below of people, sort of working middle class families that really worked hard, saved money for that big wedding in their family, for their son or their daughter. And I think it's that middle tier of people that it's really affected because those people are more stretched now, and they're making more kind of frugal decisions about their weddings and their wedding planning. And they're maybe saying to themselves, well, we might have got married on Park Lane or somewhere really fancy in London and had 500 people. Let's just bring that all back down a little bit now. Let's do 200 people in maybe a country estate somewhere. So we're seeing a noticeable difference in terms of the venues people are booking and the kind of events that are happening in London. But it's funny how you talk about, you know, going to like the Ritz and just thinking, where is the cost of living crisis? Because when you go abroad, for example, we spent a lot of time in Dubai and in the Middle East, you'll see that there is no sign of it stopping.
No.
It's just escalating. People are spending more and more money. The wedding industries out there are thriving. And it feels like it's just back home. It's just here that I'm really seeing it with a specific kind of sector of people. But yeah, abroad, I think weddings abroad are just completely ramping up now. We're noticing that a lot of clients who would have got married here in central London are now getting married abroad. Yeah. So it's affecting the wedding industry here in London for sure.
And I think that's also because I think it's mainly driven by the venues putting their prices up. So it's almost like the venues putting their prices up, because I obviously know this because we obviously do big events and the venue prices have been insane. And you think that then has a knock-on impact on the suppliers, because then obviously they've got less money to spend on everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is insane. And do you think people still, like, obviously Asian weddings are going to be forever big. Like, even if it's 200, that's still quite a lot of people.
Yeah, the grand scheme of things.
Do you think more people are like, actually, I'm not going to have a big wedding. I'm going to put it towards a deposit of our house? Or yeah, do you think that's shifted?
Yeah, and I think COVID was a really good, for want of a better word, excuse for people to do that, because I think people in our sort of generation were already feeling a bit like, I don't know that person. I wouldn't recognize them if I walked past them on the street. I don't really want to invite them to my wedding. And then COVID happened and people had this reason now to go back to their parents and say, see, we just can't afford it now, or it's not viable now to invite all these people. Let's just tone it all down and let's have 150 of our friends and family that we really love. And I think that has sped up that process. COVID has spread that process up. I think it was going that way anyway. And now the smaller intimate weddings are here to stay and they are much more popular. It's funny because I think back 10 years ago when I got married, I would love to have done that, but it was just impossible. I could never have even floated the idea with my parents. Who would have laughed at me. Or Jazz, to be fair, he would have laughed at me. But now it's really normal and it's really lovely and special. But yeah, it does have a knock-on effect on the trade and the industry that we're in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And in terms of like creating like a high-end luxury brand, do you, because you obviously were saying like you kind of always think about continuous development and learning and skills, like I think there's also this thing around, like, especially with Asian women, I think it's not really a money thing. I think it's more like, am I like worthy of investing in myself and my business?
Yeah.
So do you think that's been really key for you? Like investing, like, I guess, like upskilling yourself and investing in your brand? Because I remember when we first did our like first collaboration like 10 years ago.
Oh my God.
And you were doing this photo shoot. I remember I came along as like a little blogger back then. Yeah. And I came along and you were like, I think you'd like hired this house out and you were having a photo shoot done. And I just remember like 10 years ago, that was like unheard of.
It was, right? It's really strange because I thought about this when we kind of reconnected and I thought, God, that was the first time I met Shad, and I tried really hard to find a picture of it, of me and you, so I could show you on the 3rd of Feb and say, look, this is when we first met. And the only picture I could find was me looking absolutely ridiculous with your hair in the back, like the back of your head. I was like, oh, at least she looks lovely in this picture. Her hair looks beautiful. Aww. But I wanted to find like a really embarrassing photo of us, and I couldn't. But yeah, back then, I think that was a bit strange. Like, we spent some sizable amounts of money on a really nice house to do a really nice photo shoot, which nowadays is very normal.
Yeah.
I was in Dubai recently and there are literally homes that are set up just as studios for photo shoots, and they are all over the place. People are making businesses from just renting spaces for photo ops. But yeah, it was strange and it was a bit scary to invest that kind of money in the beginning. Now I wouldn't hesitate as much to invest in things like that because I think it's necessary, particularly now that we're so visual. I think investing in things like content and content creation, good cameras, good equipment and stuff like that to create your content is also really important. And that's a new element of my business altogether. But yeah, investing in myself first and foremost is really important. And it always has been, because without me, actually, my hands and my talent, my business doesn't exist. So I have to push myself and I have to grow and learn, because you can, at no point, I think, can you just sit still and kind of
rest on your laurels.
Rest on your laurels. No, not at all.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think sometimes like I'm guilty of this. Like I'll splurge on like beauty products or like stuff that I don't need around the house. It's like, no, don't think I need this. But I'd always think, oh my God, I'm my best investment. Like there's no better investment than your brain, basically, in yourself, because ultimately we are running very different businesses now to like maybe 50 years ago. We are our business.
Yeah.
So we have to absolutely invest in ourselves, I think. I was going to ask you, do you ever have imposter syndrome, especially in your early days?
This is a really good question, because it actually triggered a lot of thoughts in my mind reading this question, because I don't think I experienced imposter syndrome in this current career that I'm in, baking. But I definitely experienced it in my first career in the city. So before I was baking, I had a career in the city, working in a very kind of male-dominated, middle-class, very not ethnically diverse environment. And I really felt like an imposter every single day. I don't think I knew what imposter syndrome was, and I don't think the term was in my mind or had been like, coined back then. But I remember how it felt. And I always felt, I think every day I walked into work and felt a bit uneasy and a bit on edge. Like, why am I here? Why are those people listening to what I'm saying? Does what I'm saying make sense? Have I done enough research and due diligence before I make that comment? And I think part of that feeling was a reason why I'm here doing what I do now. Because I got to a point where the opportunity came up to have my own business. And I thought, it's got to be a bit less stressful than feeling like this every day. And it almost pushed me into it. Thankfully, it did, because I'm so grateful for where I am today. But I definitely felt it back then, 100%. And one of the only things I regret in life is that I didn't push myself to overcome that back then.
Yeah. And I think we all live and we learn. And especially when we're younger, though.
Yeah.
I think as you age, not that we're that old. I think we're both in our 30s.
I'm on the dangerous end of 30, but yeah, anyway.
We look incredibly young. I think that it becomes less and less. I think with age and wisdom, you just... Because I remember, like, I think if this was me like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, like, obviously we know each other, but like just approaching like, people to come to my event or come and speak or on my podcast, I would be like absolutely petrified. Yeah. But now what I've realized is like everyone's a human being.
Yep.
Everyone potentially has an online persona, and followers aren't life or death,
Yeah, of course.
And I think a lot of people do put like, oh my God, they've got so many followers, or they've got many followers. And I just think once you start just like looking beyond that and looking at the person, is this person a nice person? I think that's way more important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people feel imposter syndrome for different reasons as well. It depends what industry you're in. And I felt it in respect of being surrounded by a lot of males and a lot of people who are older than me and who weren't. I was like the only brown person in my office at the time. I'd like to think the corporate world has changed a lot since then, but that's why I felt it. And I think maybe now it would be completely different. I might feel it from something in personal on social media I feel nervous to approach them because of followers, etc. But you're right. It's understanding that, everybody's a human being and everybody has something different to offer. You might have a strength in an area that I feel quite weak in, but I might have a strength in an area that you might feel weak in. And the more we can sort of come together and learn from each other, the better we make ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, followers doesn't mean engagement. Engagement is the key, not the followers.
Exactly. Having an engaged audience is so important. And I think also for some brands, like it's really different. Like, so for example, when I was in the wedding industry, I would get like loads and loads and loads of comments, and obviously that was amazing. But what I found with my AFEC brand is like I have a lot of like silent followers and silent lurkers, maybe because of the nature of work that I'm doing. But I have a really engaged audience through like things like stories and my Facebook group and all of that stuff. So I think it's really important to just always keep that in mind, that like that is not the be all or end all. And I think like, especially like, I think longevity and sustainable businesses are more important.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes like you see people and they're only around for like a few years and they go. And I think the key thing is, I think in business is build that sustainable, you're in it for the long game, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like we were saying before about the sensational stories, is that they're wonderful if they happen, but more than likely it's not going to happen. So you need to play the long game, and you need to enjoy your business and enjoy what you're doing, because it is a part of your life, and success isn't going to come and kind of knock you over the head. It's not a bat that someone's going to use to knock you over the head one day and say, oh, you're successful. It's in the really small wins and achievements every single day. And sometimes I think we forget to stop and really appreciate those and take them in and go, oh my God, wow. Like with your event, stop and take it in and go, oh my God, on the day, this is incredible. Because it's only with hindsight that you might say, I'm successful now. But in the moment, you kind of forget that because you're so hard on yourself all the time. Like, I'm really hard on myself all the time. And sometimes it's nice to just stop, take stock of the little wins, because they're the things that accumulate to success.
100%. I think both of us are probably like high achievers. And I think when you're like a high achiever or someone who's really ambitious, you never stop. Like I'm always like on to the next thing. Like I'm just literally like, but then I'm like, oh my God, I need to like literally take a moment and think, oh my God, like this year and last year I've created 2 events that have had like close to 200 people attend. Last year I think we had 200 people booked. And it's just like, you know, I really have to like really remind myself and ground myself, because otherwise what's the point? Like if you don't, you're always reaching for the next destination, and sometimes that destination never comes.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. You're always either reaching for it, or you're looking back and going, oh, you know, I was successful, or I should have been enjoying it, or I should have taken that in. I was in my prime, I'm not anymore. So I think we need to all just slow down and just enjoy what we have right now, and enjoy what, as long as you're happy in what you're doing and it's a part of your life. And like I was saying before, I've molded my business and my life and my kids and everything together. And day to day, it's just fun. It's fun and it's exciting. And I'm trying to enjoy every single moment that it is, because I don't know how long it will last. Yeah.
That's amazing. And just our final question, if anyone's kind of thinking about entering business or the wedding industry, FYI, warning, do you have any tips? Like, say, for example, you were starting again today, or in general, do you have any tips for business?
I think it's a tricky one, because it sort of depends what your business is and what industry you're entering into. But I would definitely say, sort of what we've been saying already, go into it with your eyes very wide open about the levels of work that it requires, because unlike a 9 to 5, you're not closing the door and you're not turning your brain off and putting on your social hat at 5 o'clock. You're literally wearing all of the hats all of the time, and your head starts to feel quite heavy from it. But yeah, go into it with your eyes wide open. Go into it kind of embracing experiences and opportunities and networking. My business has grown a lot through people. And I know you don't necessarily need that to be successful. It's in some industries or some roles, you don't need that kind of networking and that being out there, being present all the time to grow your business. But for me, I do. Mine is very much word of mouth, and very much am I on people's minds when they are coming to the point of booking an event. So being open to networking and opportunities to meet people has been really important for me. And I'm trying really hard to get back on that now, because when I had kids, I kind of took my foot off the gas a little bit and sat at home and kind of enjoyed cocooning myself away from the world, just being a mummy. And I've spent the last 5 years of my life either being pregnant or feeding or something. So I'm now ready to like put my foot back on the gas and get back out there. But I think it's really important to put yourself out there and to network and to just say yes to as many things as you can, because one door will lead to another door, which will lead to another one. And yeah, just embrace the spontaneity of it all as well.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you so much. And where can everyone find you, Krishma?
Oh, at home, in my bed. No, well, that sounded really bad. No, they can find me on websites. I feel like are just done and dusted these days. So I guess the best place to see what we do and the work that we do is on Instagram at Maya_Dahlia_Cakes. And yeah, that's probably where my life is concentrated at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's been amazing chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been wonderful, Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you.